Rest your head, little girl blue. Come paint your dreams on your pillow. I'll be near to chase away fear. So sleep now and dream till tomorrow. I'll be near to chase away fear. So sleep now and dream till tomorrow. Good night, Goslin.
I think I'm still having trouble with reverse. Well, anyway, welcome to the St. Canard Files, a Darkwing Duck podcast. I'm your host, Will Santana, and
I'm your other host, Mike Russo, and I chose to be a clown in a mask and cape.
I see where you're going with that one, Mike. Oh, man. So, Mike, what are we doing today?
We are reviewing Darkly Dawns the Duck Part 2, the second part of our two-part origin.
The prequel pilot to me.
To you, yes. Yours is next.
Okay. Oh, is it?
Yes, it is.
All right. And this is the conclusion to the episode that most people consider the pilot, correct?
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, hold on. We jumping the gun here. Before we get into the episode and get you guys all excited, Mike, we got some news, right?
Yes. By the time this episode drops, we will be a few days away from Darkwing Duck's 28th anniversary.
It's somebody's birthday. I wonder who. Somebody right in this room near you. So look all around until you see who. He's laughing. He's smiling. My goodness, it's Darkwing.
Woohoo!
All right, Darkwing. How old is he going to be? 28?
Wow, yeah. Almost 30 years. He's getting there.
Oh, wow, man. Jesus. Woo, he's getting old.
Yeah. 1991. That was a big year for animation, not just Darkwing.
Yeah, Nickelodeon too. Where they had Rugrats, Doug, Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah, and 1991 was also when Disney's Beauty and the Beast premiered too.
Oh, okay. So Disney wasn't playing around in 91 either.
No, not at all. That was a big year for Disney.
Oh, okay. So dang.
Nickelodeon too, cable television, big year for Nickelodeon and Disney.
I believe that was the year Salute Your Shorts came out. I used to love that show.
Was it?
Oh my God! You know what? Now that I think about it, 91 was a great year for our Gosling Mallard voice actor.
Yeah, because who was she on Rugrats again?
She was Chucky.
Yes, she was.
And she also had a guest appearance twice on Salute Your Shorts. She was Ug's girlfriend.
She was on Salute Your Shorts. I remember the episode she was on it. And I remember saying, oh my God, that's her. That's Gosling.
That's funny. That's Gosling.
I recognize the voice.
Yeah, so Christine Cavanaugh was on top of the world in 91. She was everywhere, man.
Yeah, and Kat Sosi, who does Morgana, she was on Rugrats too.
Oh, yeah, sure. Oh, my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, sure was, man. So, like, they were flip-flopping, Disney and Nickelodeon. They had no loyalty.
Yeah, busy. When you're a voice actor, you take the jobs.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I had no loyalty. I didn't care. I was a fanboy at both.
Also, not just doing Darkwing, Jim was on Tasmania. That started that year, too.
Oh, for Warner Brothers Looney Tunes, right?
Yeah, he was doing the Tasmanian Devil that year. That was the first time he ever did that character, and he did it for years after that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he ever still does them, but that was his character for a while.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you got some other news, don't you, Mike?
Some other news, yes. Also, by the time this episode drops, we will be one day away from the premiere of new Ducktales 2017 episodes. These will be the last 8 episodes of Season 2. Those will start Tuesday, September 3rd and go until Thursday, September 12th. I've seen the episode titles and all the summaries. I'm not going to bore anybody with all that information. You can easily find that online. But if anybody has seen the trailer for the rest of Season 2 that dropped during San Diego Comic-Con, we know Darkwing's coming back. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be for the season finale, which is titled Moon Invasion. And judging by the trailer, we know he's going to cross paths with another costumed superhero.
Oh,
So
don't spoil it. Don't
I'm not
spoil
going to
it.
spoil it, but so anybody who's a fan of Darkwing Duck and a fan of the new DuckTales, definitely tune in wherever you can watch Disney Channel, Disney Now app. Start watching the new episodes because I think you'll be in at least one of them, maybe more.
DuckTales. Woo! So, Mike,
Yeah,
before we get into the review, is this DuckTales? Is it really worth watching? Is it really good or?
See, I know opinions are divided. I'm sure our listeners have divided opinions too.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy it. I know the animation style and the aesthetic is hard to get past. I know I've heard all the complaints about the square heads and blah, 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 but I like it. This past season, at least, the animation has been really good considering the limitations of what they're working with. And the story arc they're working with right now is really strong. I love what they're doing with it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the Darkwing Duck episode they did back in May was very heartfelt. It was phenomenal. I've watched that more times than I care to admit. And you can't just jump into one random episode and watch it because the story arc is that tight. The continuity is very strong with this show. But if you anybody who has time and is on the fence, watch through the first season. If you've watched the first season and you're just not interested, fine. But I'd be surprised if you didn't want to keep going, especially knowing there's more Darkwing in store. So yeah, I recommend it. My family loves it. Whenever a new episode airs, I get to go with my wife and my daughter. We watch the episodes. We love it. We really do. And it's one of the few modern kid shows I really even care about and make a point to tune into. I like it that much. I don't think it's as good as the original DuckTales because you really can't beat how iconic that first show is. But if you can tolerate the characters being changed a little bit, especially from the old comic books, you'll like it. I think you will. You just have to have an open mind. And
okay, I've only seen 3 episodes so far, so I'll be honest. I don't have an opinion. I haven't got hooked yet, but I don't hate it at all. I haven't got hooked. That's the problem. Normally, like when I watch a show, I like to try to get like 3 to 4 episodes in, and then if I'm hooked, I'll keep going. My problem is I haven't got hooked yet, so maybe I need to try like maybe 2 to 3 more episodes and see how I feel.
Like most shows, it gets off to a bit of an uneven start. Every show is like that. But
I do like Webby so far.
Oh, I like Webby a lot more than the original Webby. I'm also in love with the new Flintheart Glomgold. I think he's hilarious.
Mm-hmm. So, and I've liked so far. I don't know how far it goes, but I do like Donald's more involved in the first 2 to 3 episodes I've watched.
Yeah, they're inconsistent with how often they use him. Mm-hmm. So he's not in it as much as you probably think he's going to be. But when they use him well. He's actually figuring into the story arc they're working on right now. Mm-hmm. I think it's okay. I think it's, Donald's fine. It isn't really his show. It's really Scrooge's show, the show with the nephew show. But you can tell watching some of the newer episodes that Frank Angonis and his crew would love to do a Darkwing Duck reboot. That's how much they love that show. Oh, yeah. I hope they get a chance, but if they don't, this will keep me happy for now.
Okay.
And so let's move on. This is not a DuckTales 2017 podcast.
No, it's not.
We have an episode to review.
Yeah, let's get back to Mr. Mallard. That's who we here to talk about, man. Mr. Mallard.
So before we get into the plot, I want to ask you, Will.
Yes.
What did you think of the animation in this one?
I love the opening sequence where the sun was setting. I don't even recall seeing it that much in this whole show because it's like usually it's nighttime when he's Darkwing and then in the daytime he's Drake, kind of like a Bruce Wayne and Batman type thing.
Right.
So it was really cool to see the different, with the sun setting, and I loved it. I loved it from the intro,
Yeah, I love that red sky.
That red sky was amazing, man.
There's going to be a couple of moments in this episode you'll have to excuse me for geeking out a little bit. And one of those moments will be now. I talked a little bit about the last couple of episodes, how they were animated in Australia when Disney started their own studio there. But in this episode, was animated in Japan, which is why it looks so damn good. So Disney started their own studio in Japan in 1988 because they didn't want to rely on other people's studios. So they started Disney Animation Japan in '88, and that studio worked on Rescue Rangers, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck. And they had this really great cartoony style that was very like the colors were bolder and a lot bolder than Australia. There's like a night and day difference. And it fit Darkwing Duck. It doesn't fit every show. I don't think it fit Aladdin very well, for example. But Darkwing Duck, it works.
It definitely works.
And there's some moments in this episode that they put their top animators on a couple of really good scenes where the emotion needs to really be felt, and the Japanese animators had a really good knack for doing that. So there's a scene coming up that just pays off with amazing animation, just amazing mood, also helped by that red sky you mentioned. So the Japanese animators, they're always great. When I am not a big fan of anime, I will admit that, and I don't like the aesthetic to Japanese animation. I don't like how they, the animation shortcuts they use for a lot of their television stuff. Miyazaki's work is great, but I'm not a big fan of a lot of Japanese animation. But when an American studio like Disney or Warner Brothers would hire a Japanese studio to work on their stuff, like Animaniacs or Tiny Toons or Batman the Animated Series, and would give those studios the money to really churn out something great, you'd get things like this episode, or Life, the Negaverse and Everything, or Dead Duck, or again, all those great Animaniacs episodes they did.
Yeah.
We don't get that anymore because Japanese studios don't really work that way with American studios. There's no money in it anymore. So we get what we see today in kids shows, which is nothing even close to this. And unfortunately, Disney closed that studio in 2004 as they were closing all their 2D studios. So you're never going to see this kind of stuff again. It's a shame, but this episode looks great. It's very different from the last one, but I think that's okay.
Oh yeah.
So let's move on to the story.
Yeah, let's move on. Well, before we move on, the last thing I want to say is I love how no, you're fine. I love how the red sky, like it starts off with the sky and then it goes to the bridge and to see the bridge light up with that red sky and then it goes into the room with Darkwing and Gosling, how the episode starts. I just loved it. It looked fantastic, man.
And the shadows on the wall.
Oh yeah, man. I just wish we had it in HD, man. Imagine how it would have popped, or in 4K,
Well, Disney has been remastering some of their shows in HD. They did it for Rescue Rangers and Goof Troop. The versions I know the ones that are on Amazon Video are in HD. And I'm pretty sure when Goof Troop is on Disney Plus, that'll be in HD too. But I don't know what's going to happen with Darkwing because it's the one show Disney is ignoring right now. It's not on iTunes. It isn't on Amazon Video. There's no indication it's going to Disney Plus. I hope they give it a nice HD scrub down. I don't know what's going on with it. But the show would look really great if it got some, refinement to the visuals, but who knows? I hope it does. Disney Plus, make my day. I don't think you're going to do it, but prove me wrong. But what's being the lineup for Disney Plus in November is not everything that's going to be on there, so you never know. It might show up. I mean, we're getting the service, so I'll find out soon enough, I guess.
All right. Well, Mike, start us off with the episode. How does it start off, man?
So honestly, we spend almost 7 minutes with just Gosling and Darkwing in this episode, and I think we need that because
I love it.
It really builds their relationship. And I love that Darkwing's coming in with his own narration, and he says no one gets to drop on, and she drops on him. She proves herself in just a couple of minutes to be almost as physically capable as he is. Yeah. I mean, her time on that kitchen training course is clearly, it's implied, it's better than his.
And he forgot the milk again.
And he forgets the milk again. And again, a great running gag. I mean, it's the idea of forgetting the milk and getting punished by it by having the refrigerator fall on you. That's just genius. I love that.
Well, what I like about it, though, that 7 minutes of Gosling and Darkwing, it builds up to what's going to happen at the end,
Right.
It connects the dot. It gives you a spoiler a little. Well, not spoiler. It's more foreshadowing, Right.
And that red sky is building a sense of drama. I think if the sky had been blue, you wouldn't feel it. but you know that Taurus Bulba's up there waiting for him. So the red sky builds this dread that even though the scenes are sweet between Goslin and Darkwing, you never quite forget that things are going to turn south very soon.
Yeah. So how does the 7 minutes end with Goslin and Darkwing?
So we get what I think is probably the sweetest scene in the entire show. Like, really, honestly, not just the sweetest, one of the best scenes in the whole show. Not just this particular episode, the entire series. The lullaby scene. You know it. You love it. You could probably sing it. You know that arming code color sequence. It's beautiful for a whole bunch of reasons, Will. First of all, the animation. I think the animation in this particular scene was from the best animators Disney, Japan ever had. These guys were amazing. But it's also the vocal performances. I want to, again, we've been shouting out to Jim and Christine this entire show so far, but this is amazing. What do you think of this lullaby?
Well, at first, I'm not going to talk about it how I saw it recently, but I remember the first time I ever saw it, I was like, geez, man, Christine Cavanaugh, her voice, singing, woo, she needs a tune-up,
But that's very likely that was intentional because a 9-year-old tomboy is not going to have this great voice, and she sells it. Goslin would have this squeaky little voice. That's totally off-key.
But that was my 10-year-old self thinking, like, well, what am I listening to? Christine Cavanaugh, come on now. But then, now, as an adult, though, you learn to love it because it's like it makes sense. It's perfect because, when you're older, you're more mature. You understand what's going on a lot better. You're not. Yeah. So I love that there's a key thing to the lullaby that she never figured out, but Darkwing picked it up pretty well. He didn't pick it up right away. It took him a few minutes.
It takes him. He has to sing the song to himself before it hits him.
And I kind of felt like that's the first time you really get a sense of Darkwing's crime solving. Him being a detective, him being a sleuth.
Right.
And I really love that. So it's like, man, this is why I played the video games because it's got crime solving, it's got action. So.
And can I just say that Jim singing that song? Like, he brings Darkwing's voice down a few registers, and it's so sweet. He does such a great job. And speaking of the crime fighting that you mentioned, I think this is the first time he whips out that magnifying glass.
Yep. As when he looked at the picture with the buttons on the ramrod.
And I don't think they ever named that thing. But it's a magnifying glass. It has a scope on it. It's like way too fancy. But of course it would be because it's Darkwing's gear. And it's like it's one of those pieces of tech that he pulls out a lot that nobody talks about. I love that thing.
Oh, yeah. We skipped one thing that I did want to mention.
Sure.
So we're just going to backtrack real quick, guys. Basically, I love the part right before she reads the code or she sings the lullaby to him, how she's very protective of him, with the helmet. Or is that later?
No, it's before that. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. Yeah, I love how she's very protective. She wants him to have a seat belt. She wants him to wear his helmet. And it's the foreshadowing, again, that's what's going to happen at the end,
Right. Yeah, and it shows that she cares, and they're developing this bond already. So, and she suffered through so much loss in her life. If you think of it that way, when you think about how much in her life she's lost,
and right now Darkwing's the only person around her who shows any kind of sympathy or even shows any affection,
Right.
Yeah.
And that unfortunately makes what's coming up a bit of a gut check. But now we move back onto the bad guys.
Taurus Bulba, Tim Curry.
Oh, he's better in this episode than he was even in the last one because he gets a lot more moments to gloat in this one. And Tim Curry just sells it, man. He's so good in this role. And it's worth mentioning that this episode, much like the last one, had some scenes cut out, so it would fit into that half-hour time slot. And one of those scenes is right here, as Taurus Bulba's talking to his goons about knowing what Darkwing's weaknesses are. He when he says, Will, when he says, I watched him, I know his weaknesses.
Yeah.
He starts telling them all the flamboyant posing, the mask and the cape and that hat. It all adds up to an ego the size of a small planet.
Oh,
And
wow.
I think that's important dialogue. I know they had to cut something, but it shows that Bulba knows Darkwing's biggest weakness is his ego.
Oh, yeah. He's so cocky, man.
And Darkwing is a character that you can break down so easily just by picking away at his ego. It's the best way to knock him down. So he's sending out a Morse code into the sky that he wants to surrender to Darkwing, but only to Darkwing.
And that part is so funny because when he sends that Morse code out, his goons are like, how do you know he can read Morse code? He's like, he's the type of guy who would sleep with it under his bed.
the Boy Scout handbook, and you want it. This is really interesting, at least interesting to me. In the comic book adaptation,
Mm-hmm.
do you know what's written on that Boy Scout handbook that's not in the episode?
What's that?
The Boy Scout handbook, on the cover, it says Junior Woodchucks.
Wow. So they
Yes.
gave Ducktales a little spin right there, a little shout out.
Yeah, I when I read the comic, I'm like, oh, why wasn't that in the episode? That would have been perfect.
Yeah, that would have been amazing, man. Oh,
Darkwing Duck, a Junior Woodchuck.
man.
It totally makes sense. But now we get to where his relationship with Goslin kind of falls apart a little bit because she's not stupid. Why would Taurus Bulba surrender to him?
Mm-hmm.
And all she has to do is say that to him. That's all it takes to hurt him badly enough that he turns around and he makes her cry.
Yeah. Because Darkwing's ego was like, I got them on the run. You know, of course they're going to surrender. Like, come on, are you serious?
There's another edited bit of dialogue. He looks at his notepad and he says, "You think I ought to frame this?" And I love it. He's gloating. He just stops to say it, and it's so him. He would frame something like that.
Oh yeah.
So he upsets her. You know, he tells her he'll just send her back to the orphanage as soon as he defeats Bulba. But when he's up on the rat catcher, what does he do? What does he put on?
The helmet.
The helmet. She got to him.
Yeah, she got to him, man.
He cares.
Yeah, he definitely cared, but you know, he can't show it as Darkwing. You know, it's too early on the show too, you know.
Right.
Because yeah, you know, with the foreshadowing they already did, they still got to show a little resistance to keep it going, you know.
And Karma's about to hit Darkwing really hard because he does not know how out of his league he actually is.
Oh yeah, Taurus Bulba is the truth, man.
So he gets his first big I am the terror of this episode, which is I am the jailer who throws away the keys. And Bulba's not there.
He's not there. He's all alone. He's set up.
And the shot of Bulba walking up behind him. And
I love that scene. The shadow popping up and everything, man. You just know like Taurus Bulba is a true villain, you know?
And Darkwing's, his bravado is deflated just like that.
Mm-hmm.
He sees Bulba and he deflates. You know?
Yep.
And he tries another entrance. I am the surprise in your cereal box, but he doesn't have any energy left in him. That's how much he's intimidated.
Yeah, and then Taurus Bulba lets him know he doesn't have time for games, man.
Yeah, I love how every shot Bulba's towering over him or it's Bulba's shadow pointing at him. Darkwing is so insignificant, and he knows it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love when Bulba says, your ego is out of control.
Mm-hmm.
I love how Darkwing is just, he breaks. He's totally broken. He's just like, what? Like, he didn't expect Bulba to be this big, and he didn't expect to be basically emasculated like this, you know?
Yeah, but this is something what Darkwing needed, you know what I'm saying, to get to the place where he was going to be for the rest of the show, you know?
Right.
He needed this, you know? He needed this wake-up call, and he needed this experience.
Yeah, they can't all be street thugs.
Yeah.
You know, and Bulba has it all worked out. Bulba crushes Darkwing like a bug, leaves him for the police, and the goons get Goslin.
Yep.
But we get that kitchen training thing again.
Which is hilarious this time.
Great things come in threes.
Oh, yeah. So then this is when Darkwing gets locked up, correct?
Right, and this is, I think, probably the lowest we ever see him.
Yeah, this is the scene you were talking about in the last episode where the pig comes back.
The pig comes back, and there's more edited dialogue here. The pig comes in and says, "You were lucky last time." And in the version we all know, Darkwing says, "I was lucky every time." But the scenes that have been cut out, he says, "I never stood a chance against gorillas like you." He takes the pig's fist. He says, "I'll show you. Hit me. I'll fall like a napkin." He's trying to get the pig to punch him in the face. He's taking his fist and hitting himself. He's like, "Here, come on, hit me, hit me, hit me." And the pig's like, "Hey, get away from me. You're weird."
I have got to see this unedited version, man.
I tried to find it on YouTube today. I could not find it. And after the pig says, "You're weird," Darkwing goes, "There's an understatement." And it goes into the dialogue, "I could have had a life," that we all see now. But that little bit where Darkwing acknowledges, you could kill me if you wanted to. That's how powerful you are. I'm nothing. Beat me. I'll fold like a napkin. And again, great dialogue that had to be cut for time, but it's still cool stuff. And he's at the end of his rope, and who shows up?
The sidekick, Launchpad. In reverse.
Still having trouble with reverse.
Oh, yeah, man. And what I like about the first two episodes, it's like Launchpad is still kind of DuckTales Launchpad. He's not quite the Darkwing Launchpad yet. It's coming, though, in this episode, but not quite yet, you know?
Yeah, he's still... Like I said last time, he's still getting into those crashes and accidents.
Yeah, and then this is where I really get excited, Mike, because Darkwing is like saying, "Hey, Taurus is out there, you know, he's in a ship. I don't know how we're gonna get to him. I have no way to get in the air." And Launchpad, oh man, this is a part that I always got so excited the first time I ever saw this episode, because he takes him to who?
The Thunderquack.
Oh man, and Darkwing goes crazy when he gets in this for the first time.
I love this thing. It's something about the Disney shows. They have such iconic vehicles. I mean, the Rescue Ranger plane. A detergent bottle tied to a balloon. How brilliant is that? The Joyrider, even things like buildings like Scrooge's Money Bin, all these things that you just need one image and it takes you back.
Oh, yeah.
And the Thunderquack is really Darkwing Duck's version of that.
And what's amazing is, as soon as Launchpad is flying the Thunderquack, have you noticed his flying abilities just greatly improve all of a sudden?
He built that himself. It's probably made of titanium. He probably couldn't destroy that thing even if he wanted to.
Oh, yeah. And Darkwing loves it. He's like, "It even looks like me."
I love it. And it's so funny that later when one last bit of edited dialogue, it's just one line, when the Thunderquack shows up and Clovis notices it, Bulba says, "Either airplane designs have gotten uglier or it's that duck." I love it. I just love that. I love that vehicle. I mean, the Ratcatcher, it's just everything about this show in terms of the designs is just brilliant.
Oh, yeah. And then what I love about it is, because Darkwing is so impressed with the Thunderquack, he finally dubs Launchpad the sidekick.
Oh, and Terry's the Yahoo.
Terry McGovern, man. I love you, Terry.
Yahoo. It's just and just the barrel roll at the that was a nice piece of animation.
Yeah, man. So at this point, we now have two of the trio. It's official now. We got two of the trio.
Right. Everything's growing.
Yeah. So what happens after they fly through the Thunderquack for the first time?
So Darkwing enters Bulba's little airship, but he's outgunned, and Bulba's got Goslin all tied up, so he has to surrender. And which is a shame, because he beats Hammerhead pretty quick. Because now he has his confidence back.
Yeah.
But so Bulba takes Goslin and Darkwing up to the top of Canard Tower. It's nice, the biggest building in St. Canard. They actually have a name for it, which is cool. And he puts the ramrod up there, and all he needs is the arming code.
But he plays it off like he doesn't know it.
Darkwing, yeah, she never told me. Goslin doesn't know that she knows it. She doesn't know Darkwing knows it. And so how does Bulba try to scare Darkwing into giving it to him?
Oh, he has the bird drop Goslin, and like she's about to die.
Yeah, he is. Bulba, like I said last time, he has no problem killing a little girl to get what he wants.
Oh yeah, he's not playing around, man. That's what
No,
I like
he's
about
not.
Bulba.
No, he is not. And I find really interesting. This is one of those insignificant things that really interests me. I notice a recurring theme in a lot of Disney's pilot origin stories.
What's that?
Rescue Rangers, Tailspin, and Darkwing Duck. I don't know if you've seen any of those recently. Every one of those origin stories involves some sort of laser weapon that the villain needs something to activate it with.
Mm-hmm. Now, what did it exactly did the ramrod do? Didn't it it made the building float and then it
like
took
Goslin
the roof off?
said, it makes things float and stuff. No, it's just funny how in this story, it's the laser that needs an arming code.
Mm-hmm.
In Tailspin, it's a laser that needs an emerald to make it work. It's funny they keep going back to that same basic story. Anyway, like I said, it's just only something that interests me. But so eventually Darkwing has to give in. Obviously, the code is a lullaby. He arms it. And so what does Bulba do to Goslin? Does he give her back?
Nope.
Down she goes.
Down she goes again. And somebody comes to the rescue.
Who would that be?
The sidekick, the official sidekick. Launchpad.
He got her. So now Darkwing, he goes on the offensive, but you get another entrance line. I am the chill that runs up your spine. And Bulba's no idiot. As soon as that blue smoke comes up, he tells Hammerhead to shoot the smoke. So Hammerhead grabs his pistol and goes to town. Again, I know our political climate with guns is all crazy right now, but I love how the show wasn't afraid to bring in the weapons. It does make things a lot more dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
So the ramrod starts to overload, and I really love Darkwing is ready to retreat. Bulba grabs him by the shirt and just tells him, "This time you simply die." He's not playing around. And the ramrod explodes. It takes the whole top of the building with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to address the one big criticism I always hear people throw at Darkwing Duck.
What's that?
How do you build drama when your main character can be sliced apart, burnt to a crisp, and drop thousands of feet and be totally fine? How do you build drama when you can't kill the main character?
Yeah.
I see that come up a lot. That's never bothered me. Because when they want to build the drama, they always find ways to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And it works here. Now, you don't think he's really dead.
Of course not.
But the way the building explodes, you can feel the emotion in it.
Oh yeah.
And when I was young and I watched this episode, the lullaby choked me up, and when the building exploded, it got an emotional reaction on me. It was like a really holy, wow kind of reaction, because I really didn't expect it. Because bear in mind, I saw this one a few weeks later. I didn't see it when it first aired, so I was used to the show not treating death as a very serious issue.
Yeah.
So when they went for it with this episode, I was surprised. I wasn't expecting it. So how does this episode wrap up, Will?
Basically, he's no longer Darkwing. He shows up as Drake, and he's at the orphanage with Miss Kavanaugh, which we gave you guys what the Kavanaugh, what the goof is to that on the first episode of this one, part one.
We get one more voiceover from Marsha Wallace too.
Yeah. And basically he's there to adopt Goslin, and he's trying to give her a hint of who he is because she doesn't know who he is right away.
But she recognizes the voice.
Yeah, she recognizes the voice, and then he starts giving the hints of I forgot the milk.
Don't you love it when he adjusts the bandages on his head so it looks like a mask? That's really sweet.
Oh yeah, and she's just a kid, so she goes running over there and she just tackles him and jumps all over him. She's just so excited, the foreshadowing paid off. Yeah,
And he almost calls himself Darkwing Duck. He can't help himself.
Oh yeah. And what happens though? Who pops up at the very end, Mike?
Launchpad, still getting the hang of reverse. He just drives their station wagon right through the building.
He's still working on that reverse, man.
I'm surprised she even let Goslin go with them.
Yeah. And now, Mike, we officially have a trio.
Yes, we got Goslin, we got Darkwing, we got Launchpad.
Yep, the trio is finally set. Even though sometimes there's a fourth wheel, but the official trilogy is here now. You know.
Yes, we got them together. They're a family.
Mm-hmm.
I consider them a family.
I do too. Even though Launchpad doesn't have that last name, he's family. He's like an uncle, you know.
They never tell you where Launchpad lives, if he even has a room in the house. It's just assumed he's there. He's just
all the
there
time.
all the time. They never explained it, but he's part of their family.
All right, so Mike, man, how many gas gun canisters would you give this episode?
Oof, this is one of the very best. Like, it really is. I like part one, but this one does all the heavy lifting emotionally with the animation. I'm just gonna go all out and give this one 5 out of 5 gas canisters.
Wow.
It's just that good.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a 4.5. I love the episode. It's not my favorite episode, but it's definitely up there. You know, it puts the trio together. Launchpad has his jokes. Taurus Bulba is amazing. The animation, man. You know what? We have never gave the animation a score. Let's get the animation a score on this one.
Wow. Okay. So again, I'm gonna maybe not a full 5 for me, but I'll go 4.5 gas canisters just for that amazing Japanese animation in this episode.
Mm-hmm. I'm going 4.5 too, man. That opening scene just does it for me, man. It's like, to me, it's like the opening scene in Blade. You know, when he's at the club and it's like, wow, you'll never forget that scene. Or X-Men 2 with Nightcrawler when he's in the White House. So like that.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's how this opening scene is for me. And you know, the love and the bonding of Darkwing and Goslin is just. It's what the show needed, you know. It's like, okay, this is how we're getting them together, you know.
Yeah, they couldn't send a lot of episodes over to Australia and Japan because it's more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones they sent, I mean, Tad Stones just said they didn't give episodes preferential treatment to send them to the studios because a writer wouldn't be happy if his episode intentionally went to a bad studio.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I believe it, but the good episodes somehow ended up at the good studios, and this one definitely deserved the best animation they could have given it. Yeah. And I think a couple more have better animation than this one, so 4.5 is really as high as I'm gonna go. But okay. It's gonna be a while before we see animation this good again.
Okay,
we're gonna dip a bit.
Okay, well, we don't need to rate the villain. We did it on the first one.
Right.
But you know, let's just mention Hammerhead's in it. Mouth and Hoof is in it. Mouth only had one line on this one.
Mouth, did he? I know he asked what's happening at one point toward the end.
Yeah, that's the only line I remember him.
And I think that might be it. Yeah, I think that's it. And of course, Hoof doesn't talk at all.
He never talks.
And then we got Clovis and Tantalus, the Condor. And, you know, a great group of villains. And Hoof, Mouth, and Clovis and Tantalus, they never show up again.
Yeah.
And fun fact, Hammerhead does show up again. Not voiced by this voice actor, though.
Mm-mm.
I don't know if I should wait until he shows up again, but it's going to be a while, though.
Yeah, let's just wait.
We'll leave it till then to tell you who voiced him in the episode where he shows up again.
Okay. All right. Well, Mike, hey, let's start wrapping this episode up, man.
Let's go. Yeah.
What's next? What episode are we doing next?
So next time we are diving into the Disney afternoon episodes. The first episode that aired 4:30 Monday that afternoon, the first week of the Disney afternoon that year, it will be Beauty and the Beat.
Our first
episode.
My first episode I ever saw Darkwing in Fort Buchanan, Puerto Rico, where we didn't have Disney and Disney Afternoon. We just got lucky sometimes. This is my baby.
You're gonna have a lot to talk about.
Oh yeah, man. This is my baby.
This is our first big supervillain.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll have a lot to talk about. But let's save that for next time.
Yeah, we'll save it for next time. So, Mike, how can the fans reach you again?
Well, as always, I'm on Facebook as Mike Russo. Friend me, message me, and how will they find you?
I'm also on Facebook. I'm Will Santana. I'm on Twitter as Will Santana Films. We have a Facebook page, which is the St. Canard Files, a Darkwing Duck podcast. It's a fan page, so you can like it. We post stuff on there daily. We have the character of the week. Who will be the character of the week for this episode, Mike?
This episode is going to be Taurus Bulba.
Yeah, he's the ultimate villain, man. I like Taurus.
And by the time you hear this, the character of the week will already be up. We put them up on Sundays. But our page, you can also post visitor comments if you feel inclined. We would love to hear from people, and definitely follow us, like us. We have about 150 some odd followers. We would love to have more. Tell people about us, spread the word, and give us feedback. We want to hear from everybody.
Okay, yeah, man. And we're on Stitcher, we're on Google Play, we're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube. We're always going to be YouTube, maybe like 24 hours later. It requires different editing for YouTube. But yeah, man, just check us out, man. We're trying to be on as many platforms as we can. We're on some other platforms that I never even heard of, Mike. It's like it was called Podcast Sync or something. I don't know, man.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so just Google us, and we're everywhere, man. There's like 3 other ones.
In the past few days since we recorded the last episode, I've jumped from Apple devices over to Android, so I had to switch my podcast apps entirely. So whatever you can use to listen to the show, just please listen to it.
Oh yeah.
And again, feedback is so appreciated. We love the feedback we've gotten so far. Thank you so much to everybody who's taken a moment to tell us how we're doing.
Oh yeah, and our email address is stcanardfiles@gmail.com. So like any suggestions, and me and Mike, we've been talking. We might have one of y'all come up on here and be a guest host with us eventually, or two.
We would love to hear from people who have a history with Darkwing or just happen to love a specific episode deeply and would love to talk about it. We wouldn't mind having 3 people on once in a while. So yeah.
All right. So all our St. Canard civilians, y'all stay dangerous, man.
Yeah. Have a good night, everybody.
All right. Good night, y'all.